Autism, interoception, body awareness, and emotional regulation. You may have heard some of these terms before. So in this video, we'll go through what they mean, some common autistic experiences, including coping strategies, and finally, how you can improve your own body awareness and emotional regulation skills. Hi everyone, Paul Micallef here from Aspergers from the Inside. I make weekly videos sharing the human side of autism, so make sure you hit subscribe to get the latest content. So today's Patron's Choice video is on the topic of interoception and all things related to that. So you may have heard this term before. It's essentially a fancy way of describing the sensations that we feel inside of our bodies. So most of our senses like sight and sound and taste and smell and things like that, we are sensing things on the outside, and interoception is sensing what's happening inside of our bodies. So in terms of a definition, the best one I could find online is that interoception is the perception of sensations from inside the body and includes the perception of physical sensations related to internal organ function, such as heartbeat, respiration, satiety, as well as autonomic nervous system activity related to emotions. So in more everyday terms, I'm asking myself, do I know if I'm hungry or not? Can I tell if I need to have a drink of water? Do I need to use the bathroom? Am I feeling pain in my body somewhere? Are my muscles sore from exercise? Am I short on oxygen? Is my heart beating faster? Do I have butterflies in my stomach? Is my body too hot or too cold and I need to change my clothing situation? Another way of thinking about interoception is, can I read the signals that my body is telling me about how it's going and what it needs? And this relates very strongly to emotional regulation, because when we're talking about emotions, emotions are physically stored in our body, their energy, their movement, and we can feel our emotions in our body. We literally ask people, how are you feeling at the moment, right? So when we say, how are you feeling, we mean, what are you feeling inside your body? We have phrases like having butterflies in your stomach, right? That is describing a physical sensation. And we can also put a name to that in terms of an emotional state. And I might say that I'm nervous or anxious or excited or something. And that is why I'm feeling this thing in my body. So with that in mind, if I find it difficult to listen to my body, difficult to hear what my body is saying, it makes it harder to tell, am I frustrated at the moment? Am I anxious? Something is wrong, but I can't put my finger on what's going on. You may have had the experience of everyone else knowing how you feel before you know how you feel. You may have had the experience of not realizing that you're hungry for hours at a time until suddenly you cross the limit and realize that you're starving, or realize that you really badly need a drink of water or need to go to the bathroom or something. And you didn't realize it was building up until it reached such a maximum that you couldn't possibly ignore it anymore. So you might be wondering what interoception has to do with autism. And the answer lies with the sensory profiles of autistic people. We typically have atypical sensory profiles. That means that I might be overly reactive to some sensory input and underreactive to other sensory input. So the stereotype of that is that bright lights and loud noises are really hard to handle. And that's an example of being overreactive, whereas we can also be underreactive. Maybe you have a very high pain tolerance. Maybe you like really, really deep pressure. Maybe you like foods that have an intense taste or flavor, or you like to look at very visually stimulating things. So we talk about stimming for autistic people, and sometimes stimming is seeking sensory input because I enjoy having intense sensory input because I'm not very reactive to that sensory input. And so I look for even more of it. So when we're talking about sensory processing, it helps to think and remember that you can be overly sensitive or undersensitive. And with interoception, we most often talk about what happens when you're not very sensitive to what's going on in your body, because that is where most of the problems come from. If I can't read my body, I don't know how far to push my body. If I don't know that I'm dehydrated, then I'm gonna feel bad and not know how to fix it and not realize that actually the reason I have a headache is because I need to drink water. Or the reason I'm so frustrated and angry at the moment, I'm actually hangry and I need to go find some food so that I can feel better. So if you have difficulty reading your body's signals, it can make it hard to give your body what it needs, which means I might be putting myself through more pain or more stress than I actually need to. So there can be some pretty serious health implications of that. If I don't know my body's in pain, if I don't know that I need to drink more water, then those things add up and I might not go and seek the proper treatment in terms of healthcare. And that's one of the reasons that autistic people are massively overrepresented in emergency rooms, because we don't always realize that there's a problem until that problem is out of control. Now, this might be hard to imagine, but there are literally autistic people who don't know if they need to go to the bathroom or not, or don't know if they're hungry or if they're thirsty. And on the other extreme, if you have very good body awareness, it's easy for that to be dismissed by other people. I've lost count of how many times doctors and other professionals have basically told me there's no way that your self-reporting could be accurate. Like, people just don't have that kind of awareness. Everyone says that. You're probably just mistaken. I had a sleep study a little while back, and I was 100% sure that I slept on my side, not on my back. And so when the doctor said, well, according to these results, you sleep on your back, I pushed it until eventually they double checked and realized they actually had the wrong person's file. So they were giving me someone else's results. And if I hadn't been so insistent that I was sure that I was right, I might have got the wrong treatment in that instance. Okay, so in terms of coping strategies, what are some of the things that people can do to overcome either a very poor sensitivity or having too much? So one of the first things that comes to mind that's fairly common is to rely on something other than my own body awareness. So if I were deaf, I would not rely on my hearing, I would rely on something else, because I know my hearing isn't fantastic, right? So if I can't really sense my body very much at all, then I'm going to rely on other things. I might, for example, know how much I need to eat every day, and I eat 3 meals a day regardless of whether I'm hungry or not. I might look outside and look at the weather forecast to know how many layers to wear when I go outside, because it's hard to know if I'm going to be too hot or too cold just by sensing my own body. On the other hand, if I'm extremely sensitive, I need to make sure that I'm interpreting correctly what that feeling actually means. For example, I've learned that when I think I'm hungry, I'm not necessarily hungry, it's just my stomach telling me that it's empty and it's ready for food if I feel like giving it food. Similarly, when I'm around other people, a lot of autistic people describe that they pick up emotions. They're really sensitive to other people's emotions. And if I'm not aware that the reason I'm getting stressed is because of the emotions of the people around me, then I might think that there's something wrong with me, or that there's something that I need to worry about. Whereas actually, it's just that I'm picking up the energy and the emotions of other people, and I'm feeling that in my body. If you are hypersensitive to what's going on in your body, figuring out what that means can be really challenging, because a lot of the time we learn this stuff by reflection from other people. So if I'm feeling hungry, if I'm feeling tired, with children, we help them understand what that means. With children toilet training, for example, we help them understand what the sensations mean so that they can act on them appropriately. Whereas if what I'm feeling in my body is not socially validated, it makes it more challenging to figure out what is actually going on. Similarly, in a lot of social situations growing up, I was just told to do it anyway. If I felt anxious, if I felt uncomfortable, if I felt funny for any reason, I was kind of encouraged to ignore that. So now that I'm an adult and I realize that there's a huge power in understanding what my body's doing, I'm going to deliberately pay more attention to what's going on inside me so that I've got more information to make a better decision about how to act. So this is essentially what it comes down to in terms of emotional regulation. To regulate our emotions, the first step is to be aware of what's actually happening in our bodies so that we know what our emotions are. And if we do something, maybe I do some deep breathing, maybe I calm myself in another way, maybe I try and hype myself up if I'm falling asleep, I need to know, are those things working or not? It's my body awareness, my ability to sense my own emotional state that is going to let me hear the feedback of, are those emotional regulation strategies working for me or not? So in terms of how to improve your own body awareness, there are lots of exercises that you can do that basically focus your energy and attention. So if I want to get better at reading, for example, I can practice by reading. If I want to get better at jigsaw puzzles, or if I want to get better at listening and understanding French, I need to listen and tune my ear and practice noticing the little nuances of what's going on there. So if I want to notice the nuances of what's going on inside my body, the first step is to consciously pay attention to what are the sensations that I'm feeling. Sometimes it helps to give them a name. Sometimes it helps to try and describe them as best as possible. You may have heard the term alexithymia, which is quite literally the inability to put words to your emotions. So I would encourage you that if you're trying to start sensing your body when you're not particularly naturally good at that already, I would encourage you to, instead of trying to pick an existing emotional word or something that someone else came up with, describe it in whatever way makes the most sense to you. And then what you're doing is you're honing your ability to notice what's going on, and you've named that in whatever way makes sense for you. Anyway, we are straying fairly quickly into emotional intelligence territory, which you may have picked up by now is a special interest of mine. So if you're interested to hear more about that, check out some of my other videos on emotional intelligence. I also wrote a course on emotional intelligence, EQ 101, Master Your Emotional Intelligence. So check that out if you want. But in terms of interoception, it is possible to train your awareness of what's happening in your body to help you to become aware of your emotions, and then help you to regulate your emotions while they're still small before they get out of control. So one of the most common experiences is not realizing that I'm angry until I'm shouting at someone, or not realizing that I'm stressed and overwhelmed until I have a meltdown. So there are actually lots and lots of signs that sort of slowly build up. And if you see the signs, especially if you see the signs in your body earlier on, it's easier to take steps while the emotions and the sensations are small, rather than waiting until they're completely overwhelming, and then it's much harder to manage. Anyway, we might leave it there for today. So I hope you have a bit of a sense of what interoception is and how important body awareness is for emotional regulation. Thanks again for everyone who voted for this video. And if you'd like to have your say in next month's Patron's Choice video, you can become a cup of coffee supporter of this channel for less than $1 a week. So take a look at the links to our Patreon community if you're interested in that. To learn more about improving your body awareness and emotional regulation, I'll leave a link to my emotional intelligence course in the video description. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I hope you found this valuable, and I will see you again next week.